Hello all, welcome to my YouTube channel. In today's video, we are going to discuss about Azure Application Gateway services. So Azure Application Gateway is also a kind of load balancer which is used at the application layer 7 of the OSI models. So let's start. What is Azure Application Gateway? Azure Application Gateway is a web traffic load balancer that enables you to manage traffic to your web applications. In traditional load balancer, we have seen it basically route the traffic based on the source and destination, IP and port. So I have already created a video for Azure load balancer, traditional Azure load balancer. If you have not watched, you can go to my previous video and you can see how basically a traditional load balancer works. So application gateway make routing decision based on the additional attributes of an HTTP request. For example, URL path or host headers. For example, you can route traffic based on the incoming URL. So if image is in the incoming URL, slash image is a path basically is in an incoming URL, and you can route traffic to a specific set of servers known as pool configured for image. So if you have servers which is configured only for image processing, then you can route traffic to that particular backend pool. And if slash video, again it's a path in the URL, that traffic is routed to the another pool that is optimized for videos. So let's understand with the example. So if you can see in this example, this is the application gateway which I have. So, and this is the end user basically, and they are requesting a contoshow.com a request on this application gateway. If they are putting the URL something like contoshow.com/images, then what application gateway is going to do, it's processing this request to the image server pool which we have here. And if they have a URL something called contoshow.com/videos, then the request will forward to this video server pool. So that's how basically application gateway work with the URL based or path based routing. So this is called a path based routing basically. How an application gateway accept a request. So if you see in this particular image, this is the end users. We have application gateway, and then we have a web application firewall here. So here basically what we are going, we have created a listeners, we have configured a rules, and based on the rules, it's redirecting a request to the backend pool which we have like virtual machine, VM scale sets, Azure App Services. So that's how basically it's processing the request to the backend pool. So let's see in a detail. So before this user basically, this is act as a client. So before a client send a request to an application gateway, it resolve the domain name of the application gateway by using the DNS servers. Azure control the DNS server because all application gateway are in azure.com. So once before sending this user request to this particular load balancer, this should resolve the domain name of that particular application gateway. So like for domain name resolve, we can use GoDaddy or something similar hosting platforms basically we can see. So the Azure DNS return the IP address to the client, which is the front end IP address. So basically whatever the public IP addresses we are going to associate in application gateway, that will be resolved with the DNS servers. So then it will forward the request to the web app firewall, then to the backend pool. So then application gateway accept incoming traffic on one or more listeners. So this is a listener basically which we are going to configure. We will see in a demo when we create a application gateway load balancer. So a listener basically is a logical entry that check for the connection request. It is configured with the front end IP address, protocol and port number for connection from the client to the application gateway. So here basically in listener we configured how our traffic is going to route to the particular set of pools. If a web application firewall, suppose if we are using web application firewall, then application gateway check the request header and the body. If present against web application firewall rules, like whatever the rules we are configured and whatever the request is coming, if it's against with these rules, then what it will do, web application firewall block your request. If the request is valid, it will route to the particular backend pools. So basically that's how Azure Application Gateway works. We will see in a demo in the last of this video. Now, benefits of Azure Application Gateway. So Azure Application Gateway has auto scaling features, and based on the web traffic, it can scale up or down based on the traffic load. So auto scaling helps in removing the dependency on the deployment size during the provision. It has a zone redundancy as application gateway has multiple availability zone and offer fault resiliency. So we have already discussed about availability zone in my virtual network videos, so you can go and watch there. So availability zone, nothing, it's a physically separated entities where we have separate data centers. If suppose if zone 1 is getting compromised, then it automatically all the data or the request will be transferred to the another availability zone, zone 2 or zone 3. So that's how basically availability zone works. It has the URL path based routing which we have seen in the previous slide, and based on the URL path of requests are routed to the different server backend pool. It has a static BIP to ensure BIP is associated with the gateway and does not change over the lifetime. So we can set a virtual IPs as a static also. Application Gateway support for web application firewall, which provides centralized protection to block the security threats. So when we create Azure Application Gateway, we can create a web application firewall also. There is an option we will see in a demo. These are the basically benefits of Azure Application Gateway. Now it comes to features of the Azure Application Gateway. So there are few features, important features which I have described here. So one is again web application firewall. The web application firewall integrate into Azure Application Gateway, which basically secure web-based application from session hijack, cross-site scripting, breaches, SQL injection, and common web attacks. So basically with the help of web application firewall, we can reduce the chances of these basically hijacks basically which are going to happen in our web application web applications. Then we have URL based content routing, which we have already seen. So this feature on Azure Application Gateway enables the use of unique backend servers on the basis of traffic. So the traffic of a web folder or a CDN can be directed to the different backends. So the feature lessen the unwanted backend load. Like suppose if we want to process the request to the particular set of pools, and if we are not using a URL based content routing, then in this case unnecessary the backend pool are going to suffer. Like unnecessary we are putting the load on those servers, and there is no use to process the request on that particular pool. So with the help of URL based content router, we can minimize the load of unnecessary load basically on the backend pools. Then we have auto scaling. So Application Gateway standard version 2 supports auto scaling and can scale up or down based on the changing traffic load patterns. Auto scaling will also remove the requirement to choose a deployment size or instance count during the provisioning. So that's how basically auto scaling can help us when we use Azure Application Gateway. Next feature we have request redirect. A common scenario for many web application is to support automatic HTTP to HTTPS redirection to ensure all the communication between an application and its user occur over an encrypted path. So encryption, HTTP to HTTPS, we can do a request redirection also. Then it's a very important feature here which we have multiple site hosting. So single application gateway can host multiple sites. It can support up to 100 plus websites pointing to the same application gateway. For example, if you have 4 websites which we have discussed here, so like these are 4 websites basically, and based on the multiple site hosting, we can forward the request to the particular set of backend pool. So we see in this particular diagram, these are the 4 requests: test1.com, test2.com, test3.com, test4.com. So, and we have only single application gateway which is called domain name is test.com. So what we are going here with the help of multiple site hosting, we are redirecting the request to the particular set of backend pool. So with the help of single application gateway, we are processing 4 multiple requests to the 4 separate backend pool basically. So that's how multiple site hosting works. Now we will see a demo where we will create a application gateway URL based content routing. So let's start the demo. So I'm on my Azure portal. Here I have a resource group called Gateway. And under this particular resource group Gateway, I have created two virtual machines, which is called BM1 and BM2. So BM1 is acting as a image server and BM2 will act as a video servers. So if I'll go to my virtual machine BM1, so what I have done, I have installed here IIS servers and I have created a folder called images, and under this I have created one default HTML page. So if I'll go to the public IP address of this particular virtual machine, I'll just copy it and I'll search images. This is the folder which we have created, default.html the page. So if you browse this particular URL, you can see this is the VM1 image server. If I'll go similarly for VM2, so I'll take the public IP address. So this is our VM2 video servers. So in BM2 also I have created a folder called videos, and under this I have created a sample HTML page. So now what we have to do, because as of now these particular BM1 and BM2 servers are acting basically accessing from their public IP addresses. So now we have to access the servers from the application gateway. So first thing what we have to do, we have to create a subnet. If I'll go to my resource group gateway, and if I'll go to my virtual network, which is gateway VNet. So here if I'll go to subnet, so here we have only one subnet, which is default. So whatever the virtual machines I have deployed here, this is part of this subnet. But for Azure Application Gateway, we need to create one more subnet where Azure Application Gateway resources will be deployed. So what I will do, I will create a new subnet called Gateway Subnet. And the subnet address range, I am choosing the default one. As per your requirement, you can choose this particular subnet or you can create a subnet. So I'm just clicking on save. So it will take few minutes. Okay, now it's completed. If I just refresh, so I have a gateway subnet, and under this subnet I have an available IP address called 251. So now we are ready to create a application gateway. So I'll just simply go here and search for application gateway, and I'll hit on create. So I'm on free trial. My subscription is free trial. Resource group, I'll choose my gateway as a resource group. Application gateway name, I'll put app gateway. The reason I will choose Central India, because my resource group, my virtual network is in a Central India region. Okay, where is Central India here? Okay, this is Central India. And if I'll go talk about tier, basically, so it's a pricing tier. So we have standard B2 WAF, which is called Web Application Firewall, and Web Application Firewall version 2. So this is just a simple lab, so I'm going with standard B2 as a tier. If you have to configure Web Application Firewall along with your application gateway, you can choose the Web Application Firewall as a tier. I'm going for standard B2. Now enable auto scaling. So few minutes back we have created a subnet, gateway subnet. So where basically if we are choosing auto scaling, so whatever the instance is going to create, it's going to part of the gateway subnet which we have created. So I'm not creating auto scaling here. So I'm choosing no. Instance count, I'll choose 1. Availability zone, we have 3 options: zone 1, zone 2 and zone 3. So we don't want any availability, so I'm going with none because it's just a simple demo with HTML pages. Now here we will choose virtual network. So we have a virtual network gateway VNet. So if you see here, subnet must only have application gateway. So here we have to choose our gateway subnet which we have created. Next we have to create a front end. So as of now I don't have any public IP addresses which I can associate with this application gateway. We have here two IP addresses, VM1 IP and VM2. So what I will do, I'll create a new public IP addresses and I'll call name app IP. Hit on OK. Next we need to create a backend pool. So I'll name here image pool and I'll choose a target as a virtual machine. You can specify here IP addresses or fully qualified domain name also. I'm going with virtual machines, and here I will select my VM1 which is acting as a image server, and I'll hit on add. Now we need to create another backend pool for video servers. So I'll hit create video pool, and I'll choose target as a virtual machines and target VM2 which is act as a video servers, and I'll hit on add. So now we have front end and back end. Now we have to create a rules. So if I'll go to next configuration, you can see here we have front end is in place and back end also in place. Now we have to configure a rule so we can route the traffic from front end to back end. So I'll click on adding a routing rule. I'll put rule name as a rule 1. Priority, you have to define the rules priority. If you have multiple rules, you can specify the priority. So if I click here, you can see here the priority value should be 1 to 20,000. So 1 represent the highest priority and 20,000 represent the lowest priority. So based on the as of now we are going to create only one rule, so I put priority as a 1. But you have multiple rules, then you can specify the priorities of rules, like how basically first priority we need to serve this particular rule. So like that basically you can define here. Now we have to create a listener here. So listener name I'll put listener A. Front end IP address, we have to choose public IP addresses. Protocol, I'm choosing 80 because these are the applications or the servers running on port 80. Listener type behavior basic. If you have single domain name, of multi-site is for multiple domain names. So for multi-site, what I will do, I'll create a separate video for multi-site. For time being, I'm going with single domain name which is basic, and I'll click on OK. So next we need to add a backend target as well, because that's how the rules basically serves. So in backend pool, I will choose as an image pool, and backend target I have to create backend settings basically. So I'll hit on add new. So I'll put name here setting 1. And backend protocol, backend port also is 80 because I have application running on port 80. So I'll create a backend port as a 80, and simply I click on add. So now we have to configure a path based rule, because that's how we are going to serve our request. If you see, this is the image and we have here videos. That's how basically we are serving the request. So we have to create a 2 path based rule. So I'll click here, and path I will specify, and the name, the folder basically which we have created in the server, the names we have to keep similar. So I'll put images / stars, means all the request after this images folder. Target name I'll put image server. Backend second I will choose setting 1, and backend target, this is image, so I will choose image pool and hit on add. Similarly we will create for video. So video, we have a URL called videos folder, sorry. So I'll choose here videos / star. Target name I will choose video server. Backend settings I'll choose setting 1, and backend target video pool. We'll hit on add. So now we have path-based rule configured, so we can route the request to this particular backend pool based on the request. So I'll hit on add. So now we have a front end, back end and routing rules in place. So we will simply go and create an application gateway. Next. So it's running a final validation. So validation is passed. We will hit on create. So it will take few minutes to complete this particular deployment. So we'll wait for till that time. So now my deployment is completed. We will go to resources. I'll choose app gateway, and here I will choose a public IP addresses for this particular application gateway. So if I'll copy it here, now I will browse with my path. So we have images / default.html. If I hit enter, so you can see it's processing for VM1 as a image server. So if I'll choose here, put here videos. Okay, spelling mistake. So this is serving for VM2 image servers. So that's how basically application gateway work. So thank you for today. See you in next video.